Good morning, good morning, good morning, good afternoon. Thank you so much for joining us today. Thank you. I know it's morning in some places. I know it's afternoon. Thank you so much. I truly appreciate every one of you who is here today on Zoom and those who are also joining us by Facebook. And those who will be listening to the replay, watching the replay on Facebook or on YouTube. I truly appreciate you. Thank you so much. Now, once again, welcome. Abi from Ghana. I don't know if it's the first time you are joining us. If it is, please put in the chat first time because I truly want to appreciate you. Thank you for those joining from the UK, those joining from the UK, from the US, and from all over the world. Thank you, and for those who be watching. My name is Marian Amwa, and I'm the author of Breaking Through, the Immigrant's Handbook for Thriving in the American Workplace. You know, whenever I do the introduction of this book, I look at it and I go like, oh, it's a handbook for thriving in life. So whether you're an immigrant, you're not an immigrant, whether you're in the American workplace or not, the principles, the stories share, you can identify with them, and they are useful and they are helpful in thriving in the workplace and in life in general. So the purpose of these sessions really is about empowerment, learning, sharing, and receiving tips, tools, resources to thrive in life, in the workplace, or our different spheres of influence. So while at it, while we are trying to empower you, while we are trying to also learn from each other, we hope you find moments of laughter, levity, and you can identify with the experiences, the journeys that we are sharing. We also hope that you can share the information to those in your circles who may benefit. A young person, older person, it doesn't matter. Somebody might benefit from it. And this means that you can share the meeting. You can point people to our YouTube channel, Breaking Through. Our YouTube channel is called Breaking Through Immigrant Voices. And today's session is a little bit, is more, I call it skills building, knowledge sharing, but I'll get to that. If you have any questions, comments, please put them in the chat and we'll get to them. Over the weeks, when we have a speaker say something that is really profound, it's an aha moment, we say that is an ism. And I think today, Toism, Tohism will be the thing. So if Sophia says something that really hits in the right spot, you can put it there in the chat. Our session today is thriving in life with psychological safety. Well, Sophia and I have been doing back and forth this morning, and I told her, Sophia, I tried. Let's say I have a mentor, a young person who is mentoring me in all things technology. So I told her that the title of today's session is Thriving in Life with Psychological Safety. And she was like, "What? Psychological what? Please, can you say it in say it in a language? Say it in everyday language." Well, that is why I have Sophia today. Sophia will break it down for us. She will share with us what is psychological safety in very simple terms, why it matters, and how we can cultivate it. So everyone, please help me to welcome Sophia to this morning. For some of you, it's in the afternoon. You can put in welcome Sophia, and welcome Sophia. Welcome. Thank you. You are my very first guest. Thank you for being a supporter. Thank you for being a friend. Thank you. Everything that I know about psychological safety, I have learned it from you. So thank you. So Sophia, for those who don't know you, Abi, who I believe is the first time, can you introduce yourself, where you are calling from, where you live, any factoid, fun fact about yourself?
Of course.
And get to the question.
Yes, I'd love to. So was I really your first guest?
Yes,
No.
you and Idana.
I didn't know. So this is my second time here, so I'm honored. I got invited back.
And you'll come again.
So for people on Zoom here, if you don't mind, can you put where you're calling in from? I love to see where people are calling in from. So I'm based in Atlanta, Georgia, in the US, but I'm actually originally from Malaysia. I'm Chinese, Malaysia. I'm from this Borneo Island that has 3 countries on it, and I'm on the Malaysia side. And I moved to the United States 35 years ago, a long time ago. So I am like an old immigrant, I guess. I moved here when I was already an adult at 18. So you can guess my age. So how I really connected with Marianne, not only from working with her, but also from the fact that we are fellow immigrants. We are both like got dumped into this country and have to learn the language and have to learn the unspoken rule. So that's how we kind of connected with each other. And I read her book, and I can see the heart in it, where she really wants to help fellow immigrants to survive and thrive in the United States and in another culture too. So that's why I like when she invited me to come to speak, I was like, yes, because I do think that some of you here may be immigrants, and hopefully you can get some insights from what I'm saying here. And in terms of career, long career, 35 years. So I got my accounting degree, bachelor's degree when I came here to study at university. And then I opened a Chinese restaurant in the state of Alabama. So I owned a Chinese restaurant with my husband for almost 6 years. And then I wanted to go back to school. So we sold the restaurant. I went back to school to Purdue to get my MBA. And then I spent 20 years in corporate finance and accounting. In my last role, in my last role with P&G, I was with P&G for 15 years. I was the CFO of one of the subsidiaries, Walker Company and Brands, that sell products for people of color, which I'm very honored to be the CFO of that business. And then I went to Kraft Heinz, and I was the CFO for the Kraft Heinz Heinz ketchup and mac and cheese business. Very fun, very big, 5 billion. And then my last role in corporate, I was working a lot on organization development, talent management, just people stuff. I love it so much, I quit corporate. So I left corporate 3.5 years ago. I am now a coach and leadership trainer. And I'm loving like my life right now. I have a 3M philosophy for my life right now. Making memories with my families, because they're all like getting older. Kids are getting older too. I am an empty nester. My kids are 23 and 20. And my husband and I are really enjoying the empty nester time. And my mom is aging. So making memories, making meaning. I'm very active in nonprofit organization. I am on several boards. I'm the board chair for Mothers Against Drunk Driving. And then making money. I still have to make money. So, but making money, working on meaningful stuff. So I love my life right now. Is very fulfilling. Is that good enough?
That is fantastic. Wow. I knew some aspects of your life, the Chinese restaurant and working in corporate, but I also like the 3 M's: making memories, making meaning, making money. Making money, that's so important. All three. Great. Thank you, Sophia.
Yes.
I know that Sophia asked the question. Please let us know where you're calling from. I think there was one person, Susie from Kent.
So Abby is from Ghana, right?
Abby is from Ghana.
Hi, Abby. Hi, Kent. Sorry. Hi, Susan from Kent in UK. Sorry.
I know there are folks from Canada.
Yes, iPhone 2 is from Canada. I'm trying to fix it.
Oh, Canada. Welcome.
iPhone 2 is from Canada, and we have the US. Welcome, everyone. Thank you for joining.
So we have a truly global community here.
Yes, yes. And thank you, everyone. We truly appreciate you. Now, Sophia, like I said in the introduction, somebody said, what is psychological safety security? Can you tell us what psychological safety is, please?
Yes. And before I get into that, it may sound like something that is new, but it has been around for 65 years. So in 1965, 2 professors at, I believe it's MIT, did a study on workers in the workplace, employees in the workplace, and to find out what makes them not speaking up, right? What is missing that that workers don't want to speak up because they don't feel safe to speak up. They don't want to take risk. So it's Dr. Edgar Schein and Warren Bennis who started that research 1965, And then after they published that paper, it started to pick up a lot of interest from scholars. So more than 200 scholars were writing papers on psychological safety in the 1980s and 90s. Except at that time, we don't have internet, right? So
Yes.
the researchers are just researching and nobody was talking about it. And then in 2008, Google did a research project called Project Oxygen, studying what makes good managers. And it was a very popular research. And then subsequently, 4 years later, they did a research called Project Aristotle that studied what makes high-performing team. So when they did that, psychological safety showed up to be the #1 factor that determines whether a team is going to be high-performing or not. So that's how important it is. And so in this context, psychological safety is really based on team psychological safety. And then in 2018, one of the researchers, Dr. Amy Edmondson, actually worked with another professor, Dr. Jerker Lay, on psychological safety, really basically refreshing the study. And then she went on TED Talk and she published a book called The Fearless Organization. Do I have it here right away? Maybe not. And The Fearless Organization, right here, I have it here.
Yes.
And it got really popular. So people started to talk about what psychological safety. It's really on a team basis still. And then in 2022, right at the beginning of the pandemic, when it first started, Dr. Timothy Clark wrote another book on psychological safety. And that is called The 4 Stages of Psychological Safety. And it's his luck because he published it when the pandemic was blowing up and nobody was looking at books to buy at that time. But he did pick up a lot of popularity later on. And I'm a certified coach under Dr. Timothy Clark on the 4 stages of psychological safety, because I think that I can take people there to understand and also apply psychological safety. So that's the history. Now I'm going to give you the official definition and then I'm going to double click on it, okay? And then for Dr. Amy Edmondson, I'm just going to read it from the official definition. For Dr. Amy Edmondson's, psychological safety is a shared belief. It needs to be shared, held by members of a team that if it is okay to take risks, to express their ideas and concerns, to speak up with questions, and to admit mistakes, all without fear of negative consequences. So now, pause, think about you in your workplace or at your school or in the organization, in the group that you belong to. Do you feel safe to take risks, to express your ideas, to speak up with concerns, to admit that that you have made a mistake? So that's the self-reflection part, right? And then Dr. Timothy Clark, his ideas complements Dr. Amy Edmondson's. Is taking it a step further. He's using the Maslow hierarchy of needs, our basic human needs, to talk about psychological safety. So his definition is that psychological safety is an environment of rewarded vulnerability, not punished. Rewarded vulnerability that allows individuals of a team to feel included, safe to learn, contribute, and challenge the status quo, all without fear of being embarrassed, marginalized, or punished in some way. So in this case, the question that you ask yourself, self-reflection, is my vulnerability going to be rewarded or punished? So if you're in a work situation and you show your vulnerability, is it going to be rewarded or punished? And typically that's the question that makes people pause and think. Do you feel safe to speak up and say, this does not work? This is not a good idea. I have a better idea.
Okay, Sophia.
So that's psychological safety.
That's psychological safety. We invite you to put your questions and your comments, because for some of you, this might be new. For others, this isn't new. So just explain rewarded vulnerability. Can you explain that? And then we'll see if there are any questions.
For me, right?
Yes.
So let's say you have a family situation, you have to go home every day at earlier so that you can pick up your kids because your husband is in the hospital. That actually happened to me. Like you show your vulnerability, right? You cannot actually stay late. And then you tell your boss, you say, I have to leave early. My husband is in the hospital. I have to pick up kids. If your boss is making it a safe environment to speak up and actually make the request, is your vulnerability is being rewarded by cooperation, right? By collaboration. If you're like, I cannot bring it up because I'm going to be punished for showing my vulnerability, showing that everyone is at work the whole time, and I'm the one who keep like this week keep having to be like leaving work early. I'm worried. I don't want to speak up. I'm like trying to make it work. Then you are afraid that your vulnerability is going to be punished, right? So that's how it works. Now, I do want to flip it around and say sometimes we also have to muster up that like, courage to make the request, because many times, especially people of color or immigrants, we are like, oh, we should be lucky that we work for this big company. We shouldn't speak up. We should be no, we should say that we have earned the right to actually respectfully ask for compromise at work, right? We should be thinking about that. So does it make sense, Marianne?
Yes, yes, but I want to make sure everyone on the, on this call understands. And if there's any question, please put it out there, because
If you understand team psychological safety, because I'm just touching on the team one, and I kind of
yes,
borderline personal psychological safety, but team right now. If you understand, can you put one in the chat room? Let me know.
yes.
Put
So
one if you kind of understand, because we were trying to figure out whether you get it or not.
yes. So Sophia's question is, if you understand, please put a 1.
Put a 1 in
Okay.
there. Yes. So
Yes,
they
I see a
give me
1.
signal. Yeah.
Yeah, Sophia,
This
let me just
fundamental
say,
concept, very important to understand first. Yeah.
yes, let me just
you.
say, you've said a couple of things. I mean, it took me time. You taught me, so I understand. You said rewarded vulnerability. And then you gave the example that, say, you have an emergency. Are you able to talk to your manager that you need to leave? Then you also talked about the ability to speak freely, to express yourself, to express yourself. So let's say that your manager puts out a proposal and you have a different view. Are you able to speak up without fear of, being told that you are being an insubordinate or whatever, right?
Yes.
So I just want to make it clear, because this is, for some is new, for others is not new, but just so that everyone 5th grade level can understand.
Yes. Yeah. For instance, yes, your manager put out a proposal, this is not going to work. Do you feel safe to speak up? It's your vulnerability, because when you put yourself out there trying to challenge the status quo, you are vulnerable. Is your vulnerability going to be punished? So when you speak up, so sometimes how in a meeting, someone say, I don't think this is a great idea, and suddenly that silence, pin drop. You can hear the pin drops. That's kind of like a punishing environment, because nobody is going to say, I disagree again, right, in that meeting. So that's how you can judge. So if you are a leader at work and then someone say, I disagree, you should at least thank them first, to reward them first, and then they can bring up their objection. Even though the objection is not valid, just try to thank them for speaking up first. And if your manager are not doing that and you have a good relationship, just let them know that you should at least acknowledge me first, so that the second person will be willing to speak up. Because you can always tell, if one person speak up and pin drop, silence, there will not be another person who will speak up in the meeting anymore. Yeah.
Very good. Rewarded vulnerability. And I put another thing there, putting yourself out there. Thank you. So thank you to everyone who has answered 1, 1, 1. That means, Sophia, you are doing something good. 1, 1, 1. There's a question. Does it also work with being, from Dr. T, does it also work with being your authentic self in situations?
That's great. Eunice, great question.
Yes.
Yes, because that is actually stage 1. of the 4 stages of psychological safety. Is it expensive to be yourself in this social environment that you're in, right? Can you be authentic? Can be let's make it best authentic self, right? Yeah, can you put out your best authentic self in the situations? That's actually stage 1, which is inclusion safety. Do you feel included? Do you feel that you are being valued and respected as a fellow human being? And you can tell that for some situations, stage 1 is actually kind of hard to achieve, especially if you are new to a team, right? How do you establish that psychological safety in inclusion? You need the environment to actually help you to feel that you're welcome, you belong to the team, you are valued as a member of the team. And again, stage 1 is inclusion safety. And any more questions on this? Because it's very important for you to understand that, because there's a stage 0 too, right? Is the opposite of inclusion is exclusion, right? Which means that you won't even want to get into inclusion in the first place, right? So it's very important for you to understand. Stage 1 is inclusion safety. Stage 0 is basically exclusion. And sometimes exclusion can be the environment, right? People just act like they don't want you there. But sometimes it's a self-choice. Sometimes, let's say if you had bad experience in your old workplace, you never feel like you want to put yourself out there to even try to be included in the team in the first place. So ask yourself, has any of the new experience that you are feeling in a new environment, is it because you have been impacted by your lived experience, right? So try to say, how do I let go of the past so that I can face the future with my new team? And it's a brand new page. I need to give them benefit of the doubt.
Okay.
Okay, good.
Thank you. And thank you everyone for joining. Thank you. Sophia, so what you've been describing is psychological safety at the team level. Right?
Yes, but it ties a lot with how the team members feel, right? Which goes back to us. Yeah.
Okay. So we have talked about stage 0, which is exclusion. Stage 1, which is inclusion.
Yes.
Now, how about if the shoe was on the other hand? I am the manager.
Yes.
What do I do to create psychological safety? Because it can be, we have talked about at the team level. Team could be even home. It can be church. It can be society. It is, you know, some other society, like they used to call it society, like a club that you belong to.
Yes. Mm-hmm.
So if you can connect the dots for us.
Oh, yes, for sure. Because it's stage 1, right? If you're a manager, you need to create that welcoming environment, especially there's a new person, right? You need to make that new person to feel that he or she or they belong and they are respected as fellow human beings. Doesn't matter what their race, their gender, or belief and everything. As long as they are in your team, they are welcome and valued as a member. So things that you can do is definitely good onboarding. Always reach out and ask questions. Show cultural awareness and competency if they are of a different race or gender. So definitely managers can do a lot to do that. And one thing that I like to call out is that when you have a team member leaving your team, treat that member also, right, with respect, even though they're leaving, because the people who are still remaining on the team can see how you treat the person who's leaving, and that is going to be impact their loyalty to you, right? Because so it doesn't mean that someone is leaving the team and they don't matter anymore and your true colors show up and the remaining team members look at you and they're like, okay, this is how I will be treated if one day I leave the team. Yeah. So keep that in mind too. Yeah.
Great. Are there any questions? Please, by all means, put your questions. Okay, so there's a question.
Yes.
So would you say psychological safety should first start with the leader?
I would say yes, but I also feel that the leader needs to take a big responsibility, because leader has a lot of power to set the culture, right? To set the climate and also set the tone from the top. But the leader also needs to make the team members to understand that they can count on the leader to do all the work, because the team members are spending day to day with that individual, with the individual who's new to the team, not the leader, right? So the team members also need to understand that, so that they can create their environment for the individual. It does start with the leader, because you do need a leader who be role modeling and set the examples, and also set the tone from the top. Yeah.
Okay. Now, let me just bring it to some of our cultures, right? As I'm listening to you, I can say that for most of us, growing up, we didn't have psychological safety. And why do I say that? And I'm speaking from the Ghanaian culture at the time. I don't know if things have changed. Children couldn't speak up. It's do as I say, or adults are speaking, you're not even invited to speak. So we already have that fear of speaking up in front of your boss, speaking up in front of your manager. As you know, and as an immigrant, I'm just using it broadly. How do you break from that, you know, which is hanging in your background already? You're afraid, you're not allowed to speak up, to get to that place of speaking up, you're putting yourself out, that rewarded vulnerability that we talked about.
Yes, because you first have to reward yourself your own vulnerability, right? Because I'm from the Chinese culture. I'm Chinese, Malaysian, American. So I grew up, yes, children are seen but not heard. Don't speak up, be quiet. So I'm actually growing up in a culture that children actually don't normally speak up, and you don't speak up against your teacher too, right? You just speak up at class. But you first have to reward your vulnerability and tell yourself that if I want to thrive in this environment that reward people speaking up, because if you don't say anything, people wouldn't be able to guess what's on your mind, right? Especially in this very noisy world right now, like attention grabbing, all this noise right now. If you don't speak up, people won't be able to hear what's on your mind that will be valuable to contribute to your project or your team or your group. But you have to reward yourself and say, by putting myself out there, by being vulnerable, I will be giving something of value to the world. Otherwise, people will not be able to hear you. So if you want to stay in survival mode and say, let's just be safe, so that I don't speak up, I won't make mistake. You can, but at the same time, for you to thrive, you have to take a little bit risk. And if you fail, pat yourself on the shoulder and say, hey, you try at least, right? Because if you don't try, the chances of success is zero. So you have to really kind of take a little bit risk. And also don't try to be a perfectionist, right? Because we all know that the culture, the world is really kind of valuing more and more on authenticity now, right? So how many people you see out there are perfect anymore, right? And it's in terms of language too. For the longest time, I couldn't speak English because I was so worried that I was going to mess up the tenses. I have an accent and blah blah blah, all that stuff. But once I have mercy on myself and let go of that perfectionism, I feel free, because I was like, okay, I'm just going to be perfectly imperfect, right? So keep that in mind. If you are an immigrant or you're in a culture that is new to you, that take a little bit reach a little bit, and then try to give yourself a little bit mercy to try and take risk, because you want to move from surviving to thriving. And to thrive, you really have to live at the edge of your comfort zone. You can push it a little bit and a little bit incrementally. You don't have to, of course, make a big jump. Yeah.
Okay, so I see a few comments. Speak up if you want to thrive. That was one. And then that was from Susan F. And then we have to reframe and unlearn, all about mindset change.
Yes.
So I think we are getting into how to cultivate it, because we've heard a part that is it starts with your manager, right? It starts with the leader. And of course, the team members also have a responsibility. I am hearing you get into that individual responsibility, why it's important for you to get to have psychological safety, the ability to put yourself out there and to have that rewarded vulnerability. You said take risks and live at the edge of your comfort zone.
And I said at the edge, I did not say jump into the pool before you learn how to swim, right? So you just kind of expand your comfort zone a little bit and a little bit, because I'll tell you a little story here.
Yes, we love stories.
I learned how to, I supposedly learned how to swim at 12. I got a certificate, but still didn't know how to swim. And so one summer I asked my son to teach me how to swim. And then so in the pool, you know, there's you start to walk down the pool and it gets deeper and deeper. And then it gets to a place where you can tiptoe, but the water is getting out there. And I didn't want to get there. And then my son said, you cannot grow if you don't get into the tiptoe zone. He called it the tiptoe zone. I love it so much because it's like, yeah, when we learn something, we tiptoe into that thing, right? I can tell you that I could look at myself in videos a few years ago. So it was so hard to me to look at myself in the videos. And then I joined like a Facebook group that every day we tape 2-minute videos with a group of women, and we just support each other to try to get myself used to looking at myself in videos. So, but I tiptoe into it, right? I didn't jump and become a YouTuber like one day and all that stuff, but you just slowly ease yourself into it. So that is not as risky and it's not as scary. Yeah.
Okay. So ease yourself into that stretch, you know, begin to stretch yourself. Okay, there's a comment here that take the risk to thrive. Take the risk to thrive. Great tourism. Okay, very good. Okay, so I hope everybody understands what psychological safety is. Let's put it on there. Let's do the negative, right? What does it mean if you don't have psychological safety?
On a team, right? On a team.
On a team, yeah. On a team,
so,
and maybe then from there, go to the individual psychological safety.
Okay. Yes, so let me touch on these 4 stages of psychological safety. If you don't have psychological safety, it means that you can't do that 4 stages, right? First one is you feel included, so it's inclusion safety. Second one is learner safety. You feel safe to learn and you feel safe to ask questions and even stupid questions. You feel safe to make mistakes and grow. So let's say the learner safety. Third stage is contributor safety. You now feel safe to contribute, right? You say, okay, I volunteer for this, I volunteer for that. So ask yourself, have you always volunteer at work, or do you just keep your mouth shut so that you don't volunteer because you don't have confidence that you can do the job, or you're afraid that if you made a mistake that your team is going to punish you, right? So contributor safety is the third one. And then the last one, which is the destination of psychological safety, because you cannot have all 3 stages of psychological safety and say that I don't have to live with the 4th one. The 4th one is challenger safety. Challenger safety doesn't mean that you always challenge. Challenger safety just means that if you see something that is not right, you feel safe to speak up. You can challenge, you feel safe to challenge bad ideas or ideas that can be improved upon, or you feel safe to create, right? Creativity is actually sitting in challenger safety zone, right? Yeah. Because when you create, you're going to brainstorm, you're going to come up with lots of ideas, and some of them don't even work, and it's okay. So challenger safety is the destination stage. So if you don't have psychological safety, it means that, number one, you don't even feel like you're part of the team, stage 1. You don't feel like you want to learn because you're afraid you're going to make mistake and then get punished for it, stage 2. You don't want to contribute, stage 3. And then you're never speaking up and you're never contributing to new ideas, and you see something that is not right, you don't feel safe to speak up because you feel that you're not protected, right? So that's how it feels on the team psychological feeling. And then on the personal side, you can actually flip it into and internally, intrapersonally, and feel that, okay, if I don't feel belong in the first place, right? I probably won't want to stretch myself. I probably don't want to learn. When I make mistake, I pick myself up because I don't separate my fear versus my mistakes. And then I don't even want to contribute. I don't want to try anything. It's not going to work. And then challenger safety. You don't want to ask yourself, and am I living the life I want right now? You're not challenging yourself because you want to live in this very comfortable zone and but not grow, or you just want to live in this very safe place and survive, not willing to take the risk to say I'm going to thrive and I'm going to shine, right? And especially for immigrants, like I have so many times people tell me, you're in the land of opportunities, you should be grateful that you got all of this, but I should be able to say, but it's not enough. I want to take more risks, right? I have so many people telling me, Sophia, why are you making changes in your careers like 3 times already? And you should be grateful. You're an immigrant, you come to this country. Yeah. Mhm.
I like that, but it's not enough, right? They will tell you that you have a great job, yeah, you get a great salary, whatever. But if you're not at all the 4 stages, if you haven't reached the challenger safety,
Mhm.
it's not enough. So I'm hearing that don't settle. I think that if I were to put a word to it, I'll say do not settle, right? Because there's more.
Yes.
And
yes. Sorry, go ahead.
yeah. I want you to hold the intrapersonal psychological that is your
Yes,
personal
you.
psychological safety for a minute. I want you to hold it for a minute because there's a question here that says that can we also look at it from a manager's perspective? I want us to finish that and then really delve into that personal psychological safety, because I think that is where a number of us really struggle.
Yes.
What do I do if I don't have challenger safety? Do I stay and suffer? So can we also look at it from a manager's perspective, and then we get to the intrapersonal? Thank you, Sophia.
Yes. Yeah, the manager's perspective. So you flip it, right? You put yourself in your team member's shoe, right? As a manager, how can you foster psychological safety in your team? So for inclusion safety, like I mentioned, onboarding, you need to make everyone feels like they are valued as individuals. As individuals is very important because you have to know the individual to really get to know them and appreciate them. You go slow before you go fast, right? You go slow before you go far. So which means that you need to take the time to understand your team members individually. And so that's stage 1. Stage 2, learner safety. If it's a small mistake, slow mistake, don't sweat the small stuff and then punish everyone every time there was a single mistake in there, because people are learning. If they are not learning, they're not going to make mistake, and then they're not going to grow. So it's all related. So as a manager, how do you design a way that you build the task to have a little bit stretch, meaning that you cannot give everyone 100% of what they can do, but not give them any stretch because they won't grow. So as a manager, you need to separate fear and mistakes. Yes, if it's sloppy mistakes or lazy mistakes that you have told this person 3 times and they're still making that mistakes, yes, we need to have a conversation. But most of the time, you think about the severity of the mistake and then say, does it matter, or am I like punishing this person at the expense of their confidence or their loyalty to the company, right? So really think about how do you separate fear and mistake and really operating on the growth mindset. And then contributor safety. It's important that as a manager, if you want to encourage your team members to contribute, you need to give them autonomy with guidance. A lot of managers thought, okay, I'll give you psychological safety. Do whatever you need to do. You don't have to tell me until you come back with it. But you have to offer your guidance and say, I am here if you are stuck. You need to make them safe to tell you before the deadline and say, hey, I'm actually stuck. I need your help a little bit, just a few. You don't have to micromanage, but you need to offer them that communication loop and say, I am around. It's like you let your kids play and you know that parents are around in the sandbox, watching out a little bit. So contributor safety. And then challenger safety, of course. When every time when somebody is challenging you, you thank them first and you say, keep more of that coming because this is good. Because dissent is healthy, right? We're creating that creative abrasion there to come up with a lot of great things out there. So that's how as manager you can do it. Yeah.
Yes, yes. And I think that is very important as managers, especially given if you are an immigrant or you are coming from a culture where you don't allow juniors, younger ones to speak. You can also be preventing your team members from having that psychological safety, right? And I like something that you told me a long time ago, that reduce the social friction and increase the
intellectual friction. Yes, you remember that slide. Yes.
Yeah.
You reduce social friction to create intellectual friction. Yeah.
That helps with psychological safety. So now let's come to that your personal psychological safety. And before you get to that, if you have any questions or comments or you are learning something, please put it in the chat and we would read them. Thank you so much. Thank you all so much for joining me and Sophia this morning. We truly, truly appreciate you. Don't stay till the end because we have 1 or 2 prizes today. Sophia has 1 or 2 prizes. So stay to the end and please share, subscribe to our YouTube channel, Breaking Through Immigrant Voices. Subscribe, like, and comment. Sophia, intrapersonal psychological safety.
Yes. And I'll put my LinkedIn here too. And I started to write for my newsletter this year, actually January 1st. So you can follow me on my newsletter too, because tomorrow, not yet published, I'm writing about imposter syndrome, which has a lot to do with psychological safety. Yes. So intrapersonal, right? So we can flip this inside. And Eunice made a good comment. It is a two-way stream. If leadership has not created that safety, it can be difficult for individuals. So if you are the individual on a team that has low psychological safety, if you don't have high intrapersonal psychological safety, you are just basically just trying to hide just apathy, right? Quiet quitting or whatever, just to be safe. But if you have high intrapersonal psychological safety and you're in an environment that has low psychological safety, or your manager don't care, what do? You speak up, you try to challenge, or you try to educate, or you try to influence, right? You actually have that mindset to say, I'm going to thrive, right? My mentor at CDI, Coach Diversity Institute, Tawana Boris, she likes to say, stay and thrive or leave and thrive. Do you remember that, Marianne? She likes to say that, stay and thrive or leave and thrive. So regardless where you are thriving. So that is actually a sign of high intrapersonal psychological safety, right? So that's why it's important for us to actually cultivate that intrapersonal psychological safety, which will start with what? Self-awareness. Do you know yourself enough, right? Do you know what triggers you? Do you know what you like, what you want? What is your desire? A lot of people, we are constantly trying to handle all the outside noise. We don't have time to slow down and reflect and really look inside. What's important to you? What's your value? What's your interest? And what about you that makes you scared, right? What about you that makes you confident? So self-awareness is really important. And another piece is self-efficacy. Self-efficacy is the belief that you can handle it. If you set a goal, you will achieve it. And if you don't, you will pivot, right? It's very important to remember that. If you don't achieve a goal, you believe that you have the ability to pivot. And also when you fail, you have the ability to say, I take this failing as learnings. Therefore, I never fail, right? So I use this failure as an opportunity to make myself better. But that's self-efficacy, right? That's a growth mindset that you need to have instead of thinking that, oh, I'm doomed, I'm just not good enough, my IQ is not high enough. So that's not growth mentality, right? That's fix the mentality. So keep that in mind that nurturing yourself, psychological safety is really important because it takes self-awareness, it takes self-acceptance, self-compassion, self-efficacy. Doing all this is just trying to help you to thrive in a thriving life. And that's why even though I'm certified in team psychological safety, talking about leadership, management, I started to understand more and more and look inside using the same concept and say, how can I make myself feel safe about being me? Because when I feel safe about being me, it's like I'm unlocking all these shackles that I'm putting on myself because I know myself well enough that I don't like this, I don't like that. I don't have to deal with people I don't like. I don't have to sign up with anything that I don't believe in. I suddenly started to own myself. So I started to get comfortable in my skin. So it's really important for you to actually leverage this team psychological concept and flip it inside and say, what about me? What is my intrapersonal psychological safety? Why am I not confident? So keep that in mind.
Yeah, okay.
Are you good so far? If you feel like you're still good so far, please give me a one.
Yes, we want to hear
Yeah.
from you because I have a lot of questions. Sophia, I understand everything that you are saying. I understand the responsibilities you have as an individual to cultivate your own psychological safety. For instance, learning to speak up, learning to put yourself out there. However, as an individual, if I'm on a team and I don't have psychological safety, remember you started by saying that Timothy Clark's 4 steps of psychological safety
Yes.
sort of mirrors or takes into consideration Maslow's hierarchy of needs. So everyone has a need, but if I'm on a team, I can't speak up, I can't challenge the status quo, I can't be creative. What do I do? Bills have to be paid. So give me a tip. How do I manage? How do I survive?
Okay. So language matter, right? You do not say, I can't speak up, I can't contribute, I can't challenge, because technically you can. You don't want to because you're scared, right? You don't feel safe. So it's not, I can't. You made a choice to not speak up, not contribute, not challenge. So look inside yourself and say, why are you feeling this way? So that's why I'm challenging imposter syndrome tomorrow in my newsletter tomorrow, because I feel that language matter, labor matter. If we call ourselves imposter, right? We don't belong in the first place. How are we going to have psychological safety to be on a team, right? Because we feel that we haven't earned a spot on the team. Yeah. So I do think that language matter. It's not I can't, and I'm a coach. And I can tell you that I hear I can't every day from my
client. Okay. That's fair. That's fair. Yes, that's fair. I can't. Okay. Let me put it in another way. I'm a manager. Not I'm a manager. Well, let me put it this way. I don't feel I belong on the team. When I speak up, my points, however great they are not accepted. What do I do?
So you do really need to build that self-awareness, right? Number one, if you have past lived experience that traumatize you, right? So you're scared to try, give your team a chance to actually know them as individual. It's actually flip, right? It's all about interpersonal. You have earned your spot there. So if you decide, it's your choice. If you decide you want to, this is actually a good culture, I just don't feel belong yet. You stay and thrive, right? When you decide that you want to stay and thrive, you gotta work on something, right? How do I? So I was once I was in the leadership team with 9 guys and me, and then my CFO. And then the guys never let me speak up. Because my voice is soft, I guess. So I went to the leader and said, hey, I can never cut in because I don't know when to cut. And then when I cut, they are so loud, right? So every time he will make sure he check with me. if I haven't speak up, he'll be like, Sophia, you have anything? Or he asked me to speak first. Or and he paid attention when I made a gesture that I want to speak, he called me right. But I took that into my own hand because I'm like, I want to stay on the team. I got to do something about it, right? So, but I have to leverage my personal psychological safety to do that. I saw that Abby has a hand up and I don't want to miss it. Yeah.
Yes, please.
Abby?
Unmute yourself and speak, please.
Yeah, sorry. I had a question. I was trying to type it and I realized it would take a whole paragraph.
Go ahead, please.
So,
Okay.
what if you're in a situation where you have a team, but then you also report
Can you
to
speak
senior...
louder? Because I cannot hear.
Okay, what if you have a team, but then you also report to senior executives that are almost all Caucasian? Your job is at stake. You're mindful of what to say because you have bills to pay. So I'm just wondering, how do you deal with it? Because it's not just being in a team or having a team, but the people you report to might be senior folks who make decisions in the organization. And you always think of your job being at stake. How do you handle that?
Okay, so I'm trying to guess because I couldn't hear everything that you say, but my take is you said that what if you're in a senior executives team and they are all Caucasian and you have bills to pay and then you don't really want to speak up, right? Don't feel safe to speak up. Is that right? Right, Abby? Yeah.
Actually, what I said was that, can you hear me now? Can you hear me now?
Yes, better.
I said that you are not part of, I said you have a team, but in your job, you report to senior executives, VPs and presidents who are mostly Caucasian. You are the only immigrant, right?
Mm-hmm.
And if something is going on, speaking up sometimes can be daunting because your job is at stake and you can just make a decision and you're gone. So how do you deal with a situation where the people you are reporting to who make the decisions about your job? How can you garner up speaking up and not having your job to be in jeopardy?
Okay. Yeah. So I think I hear more now. I have faced that situation many times because I dealt with executives, and also as a finance person, I'm always dealing with executives, even when I was an early career employees. First, you assess the situation, right? If you feel, depending on the culture and everything, because first you want to figure out how do you protect yourself before you speak up. But also ask yourself, what is the cost of not speaking up, right? And sometimes people also have expectation that we're not going to speak up. And when we speak up, they're like, oh, that's so nice that you actually speak up and show up as a leader, right? But you do need to, I have to be practical and say, you gauge the situation. If you do need to speak up, think about what you have, because we always don't give us enough credit on our social capital. And I felt that I had spoken up many times at corporate, and guess what I do? I line up my allies first before I have to challenge a top leader, especially when it's like situations where I just disagree in like values and all that. So I line up my allies. I talk to HR first. I say, hey, I'm having this conversation. Just want to give you a heads up. Or I talk to my mentors. I talk to someone else. So I line up my allies first, and then I kind of draft my message. I always show up respectful and positive, give people the benefit of the doubt. I don't go and challenge and accuse, but you do need to strategize. But if you feel that this is something that is important, that you need to speak up to make things better or to avert a risk, assess the situation and then speak up, because you may get a lot of respect for speaking up, because I do think that over the years, people respected me and I got advancement in my career because of my willingness to speak up when I feel like I'm seeing something that is just not right or the project is not going in the right way. Does it help, Abby?
Yes.
But allies is really important. I have lots of
Yes.
I use allies as my influence and engagement. Yeah.
Yes. Abby has put in the lining up your allies. So very good. Thank you for that question. And if anyone wants to put in a question, by all means, raise hand or unmute yourself. And I also wrote in the chat, you have social capital. Thank you. Sometimes we forget that we have social capital.
Yeah.
Line up your allies, have your strategies, you know, strategize. I'm sorry, somebody put a draft your message, go speak up. Then Eunice has written, I like being strategic because sometimes you may want to go on a noise diet.
Noisy, yeah, it's too noisy out there. And one more tip, you can always come out and say, this is for the team's benefit, or this is for the organization benefit. So you don't do I, or you, like we sound less strategic, right? But I always come out and say, for the benefit of the company, for the benefit of the whole team, or this is going to impact a lot of people. I start by doing that. And I also start by saying, I've been thinking about this for a long time. People take me more seriously if I say I've been thinking about this.
Wow.
Yeah.
I like that. This is for the team's benefit. This is for the company's benefit. You take the I out of it.
Yes, now you're talking like a leader, right? Because you are thinking about the bigger picture. That's why that's what prompted you to feel like maybe I need to speak up. Yeah.
Very, very good. Stop using I can't, which I was using. I can't. Yes, there are things that you can do. Sophia taught us the 4 stages of psychological safety by Timothy Clark. Stage 1 is inclusion, safety. You can do some stuff. Yes, it depends on the manager, but you have social capital. Stage 2 is the learner safety. Stage 3 is the learner safety you are learning. Stage 3 is the contributor safety. And stage 4 is that challenger safety, is the destination. If you have reached challenger safety, you are thriving, you are innovative, you are more creative. You have that sense of belonging, to be yourself, to bring your true self. Thank you, Sophia. I have learned so much today. Now, Sophia has two free coaching sessions of 45 minutes to offer. If you are interested, please DM me. In fact, if I may take the executive decision, today we had I wanted to honor somebody who has joined us for the very first time. And there are 2 Abby's, but there's Abby from Ghana. Abby from Ghana, if you can DM me on Facebook, send me a message through Messenger, please let me know. And then you have 45 minutes with Sophia. And if anyone else is interested in that free coaching that Sophia has to offer, DM me, or you can even put it in this chat. But I hope that Sophia has been able to break down psychological safety for you all, for me included. I will put up some more tips, tools, resources on my YouTube channel, and please feel free to join us, check it out on Breaking Through Immigrant Voices on YouTube. And probably I might put something out on Facebook as well. The third thing that I want to, we've learned a lot. Sophia has given us a giveaway. First time you're doing a giveaway. And the third thing is, on April 26th, because of Passover and also the Resurrection Sunday, Easter, we will not have anything on the 12th, 19th. But on the 26th, we have lawyer Derek Asiedu Akrofi, a very seasoned attorney, lawyer, who will be coming to speak out, who will be coming to us to speak on Immigration 101. Immigration 101, all things immigration, things that you can learn, you can pass along, you can invite others to, questions, thoughts, ideas. Ideas you may have, you can run them by him. So lawyer Derek Asiedu Akrofi will be joining us on April 26th. And then I believe on then we jump into May 3rd. There's a topic in the book that we haven't discussed at all, and it's called Navigating Office Politics. We have Mr. Reginald Gant joining us on May 3rd. That was the only day, so I couldn't give you a break. He'll be joining us on office politics, to play or not to play to win or don't play at all. He'll be joining us. And so thank you everyone so much for coming today Sophia, do you have any last parting words before I close us out?
Well, this is actually inspired by Eunice, and thank you. Shout out to Eunice for being very engaging on the chat here. I mean, tell yourself, I belong. Because
I
I really
belong.
do think I belong. When you feel that you belong, right? Suddenly you have power, you belong, even though you're in places where you're the only one who looks like you. So say I belong when you need some encouragement to yourself. Yeah.
I belong. You can all put that in the chat. I belong. Get into the tiptoe zone. Take the risk. You have social capital. And on that note, thank you all so much for joining us today. Bye, and see you on April 26th. So join us on YouTube. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you, Sophia. I will stop the recording. I have stopped the recording.
No, it's still recording.